One of the world's largest forestry companies is cutting its lumber output in North America for the rest of the year.
Industry still falls short.
We need to have supplementary assistance to guarantee economic security for our members and work.
And at the center of it all, Prime Minister, as per usual, Carney, who's being called out for focusing on global posturing.
Major lumber giants' shutdown is sending shockwaves through Canada. It seems like Canada's once mighty lumber industry is crumbling faster than the Prime Minister can ignore it, while Interfor slashes production. The government's response? Silence, as usual, leaving families and workers hanging by a thread.
There's always going to be recessions and there are always going to be slowdowns. I think the frustrating thing is that so much faith has been put in the relationship between Canada and the U.S. over the last number of years, and to see your best friend turn on you and create an economic crisis to try to hurt you, that's a little bit just...
As mills cut back production, the once thriving heart of Canada's forestry sector is facing collapse, and the one person who should be stepping in to fix it is too busy jetting around the world, offering speeches and posturing on climate panels. Meanwhile, Canadian workers, the backbone of this industry, are being left to pick up the pieces. Interfor's decision to cut 12% of its lumber output across North America, approximately 145 million board feet, reflects more than just a company's response to market conditions. It signals a deepening crisis in the industry and sets the stage for what could be a wave of further reductions across the sector. For those living in small towns that rely on mills like those in Sault Ste. Marie, Elk Lake, and Timmins, this isn't just a matter of cutting back production, it's a matter of survival. The mills in these communities aren't just workplaces, they are the beating heart of their local economies. When the sawmills shut down or scale back, it isn't just the workers who are affected, it's the entire town.
Boone does not know the exact plans for how workers in the Soo will be impacted by the latest decision from their company, but remains optimistic this doesn't stretch beyond the end of the year and hopes government action can help the badly wounded softwood lumber industry.
In the Sault Ste. Marie mill, for example, a third of the employees were already impacted by workforce reductions, with workers rotating shifts, taking turns on unemployment insurance, and living with the constant fear of further cuts. This isn't just a temporary issue, it's part of an ongoing, larger problem that the industry is grappling with. Families are left uncertain, struggling to make ends meet, while the government remains mute on the matter. This crisis is not just about a company pulling back production, it's about the future of an entire sector and the livelihoods of thousands of Canadians.
If Trump implements more tariffs on other than the softwood lumber duties that we're currently facing on, say, pulp and paper or OSB, obviously then we're going to have to react, and we're also going to have to react as a country and as a government to retaliate or to put pressure on the Americans to try to reach some kind of compromise.
But here's the thing, this isn't just a short-term downturn. The reasons behind Interfor's decision to reduce production go beyond weak market conditions. Yes, the housing market is slowing due to high interest rates and inflationary pressures, but there's a much bigger issue at play. The US-Canada softwood lumber dispute is choking the life out of Canadian producers. The tariffs the US has imposed on Canadian lumber are suffocating the industry, and Canada's response? To sit back and wait. The lumber industry is getting hit with anti-dumping duties that have been increased by 35% and in some cases even higher, thanks to US accusations that Canadian producers engage in unfair practices. The Canadian government's failure to fight back against these tariffs only exacerbates the situation, leaving producers like Interfor with no room to maneuver.
35% on lumber going across the line is just ridiculous. There's over 250 small manufacturing family-run companies like us in BC. It's going to kill thousands of jobs.
And while Canadian companies like Interfor are scaling back, American producers are reaping the rewards of these punitive tariffs. The U.S. lumber industry is thriving as Canada's once dominant position in the market slips further away. What's worse is that the Canadian government seems content to sit on its hands while this slow-motion collapse unfolds. Prime Minister Carney has been notably absent, offering no clear plan or even words of reassurance to the workers affected by these decisions. Instead, the government is focused on anything but the crisis at hand. International summits and climate change conferences seem to be taking priority over the livelihoods of ordinary Canadians. And all the while, the economy continues to unravel at home.
The U.S. Commerce Department is nearly tripling anti-dumping duties on Canadian softwood lumber. The U.S. lumber industry is applauding this move to penalize Canadian producers, saying Canadians engaged in predatory pricing and receive unfair government subsidies.
While workers and their families wait for a response from Ottawa, their reality grows more uncertain by the day. Entire towns that once thrived on the prosperity of the lumber mills are beginning to look like ghost towns. In these communities, the mill closing is more than just a job loss. It's the destruction of everything people have built over generations. Local businesses are the first to feel the impact, as restaurants, shops, and service providers watch their customer base evaporate overnight. Schools lose funding, local hockey arenas lose sponsorships, and the fabric of small-town life starts to tear apart. Without the mill, there's nothing left to hold these communities together.
American operations are cutting production, and hundreds of millions of board are being pulled out of the supply chain.
Take the situation in Maniwaki, Quebec, for instance. Domtar recently announced that it would be shutting down its sawmill, affecting 80 workers in the community. For a small town like Maniwaki, this shutdown isn't just a number on a page, it's a catastrophe. It's the second shutdown of the year, and it's becoming clear that this isn't an isolated incident. The issue is systemic, and it's a direct result of the ongoing softwood lumber dispute with the U.S. And yet, there's still no clear response from the federal government, leaving towns like Maniwaki with nothing but uncertainty. The workers affected by this closure are left to wonder what their future holds. How are they supposed to support their families when their livelihoods are evaporating before their eyes?
Voters are seeing a man more connected with pleasing foreigners and climate activists in Europe than helping them.
The situation is similarly dire across the country. In British Columbia, more than 250 small, family-run mills are on the verge of extinction. The government's failure to step in and provide support for these industries is now reaching a breaking point. The softwood lumber industry is just one of many sectors that has been left to wither under the current administration. Farming, energy, and manufacturing are all facing challenges of their own, and instead of offering solutions, the government continues to be silent. It's clear that Carney's leadership has failed to address the real needs of Canadians, and as a result, the economy continues to slide further into decline.
Alberta, Ontario, British Columbia, the disconnect is glaringly obvious. And when leaders are failing at home, their opponents seize the moment. Conservatives across Canada are already sharpening their attacks, framing Carney as out-of-touch globalist who is ignoring the industries and its own people.
One of the most frustrating aspects of this crisis is the complete lack of urgency from the government. While President Trump has used the challenges faced by American industries as a platform to project strength and resilience, Carney has remained absent from the conversation. Trump, despite the issues in the U.S. lumber market, has acted decisively, securing new deals and positioning America as a leader in global supply chains. Meanwhile, Carney dithers, seemingly too busy with international affairs to deal with the real, pressing issues at home. The contrast between these two leaders couldn't be starker. Trump uses setbacks as opportunities to strengthen his position, while Carney's response has been to retreat further into the background.
They're pointing to these mills as proof that his policies don't work. And they're rallying disillusioned liberals, frustrated independents, and blue-collar workers who feel abandoned. This is not a debate about lumber anymore. It's becoming a referendum on the very future of Canada's economic model.
The growing frustration among Canadians with their government's inaction. It's not just the mill workers and their families who are feeling the effects of this crisis, it's entire communities, entire industries, and the country as a whole. As the lumber industry continues to collapse, Canadians are beginning to realize that their government is more interested in its international image than in the well-being of its citizens. The longer Carney ignores the needs of Canadians, the more his credibility slips away. At some point, even the most loyal supporters are going to start questioning whether he's the right person to lead the country.
Talking to other workers here on the decision to idle the mill, well, simply put, they're sawed off and left with uncertainty in a community faced with another splintering blow.
It's not just the economy that's at stake here, it's Canada's future. If this crisis isn't addressed, if the government continues to ignore the needs of its workers, and if Carney remains silent in the face of disaster, then the entire country is at risk.
They're gonna try to send us to different places until we have good news and we come back to work.
The softwood lumber dispute is only the tip of the iceberg. As industries continue to struggle and workers continue to lose their jobs, the Canadian economy is heading towards an uncertain future. It risks watching entire industries collapse, while other nations, like the US, surge ahead. The longer this crisis goes unaddressed, the harder it will be to recover. Canada can't afford to wait for another leader to step up. It needs action now, before it's too late.